Okay, so we're going to start off with our first point. We're going to talk about the gender role of a provider and how the problem is a lot of guys base um, their sense of self-worth on how good of a provider they are in a relationship. So the problem with that I see is that um, guys trying their best to fulfill the role of a provider, what that usually means would be, okay, I'm gonna be provide my partner financially, on the side, probably even emotionally. And how do I know if I'm a good provider? I want to do well in my relationship. And usually, some guys would say turn to their partner and see, okay, is she happy in this relationship? What's her mood like most of the time? And if their partner is constantly shooting negative energy um, around him, he'll just feel like, okay, it's this is a bad sign. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. I'm not doing something well. Some guys could take this negative energy very personally. On another hand, a lot of guys, they get the direct feedback from their girlfriend saying, okay, you know what? You're not doing this good enough, or blah, blah, blah. It could be more of a direct attack towards him. And that's even more, um, uh, he's going to take it much more harder if it's a direct attack. And so, yeah, there's this problem that I see, with guys who struggle with their sense of self-esteem when it comes to them being a boyfriend or a husband. Yeah, is that so? Yeah, what are your thoughts on that, Shannon?
Before they felt like their primary goal was to be like main provider in a relationship, what do you think men strive for, like before they're in a committed relationship?
Yeah, I think what I think some guys want is, when they approach a relationship, is, okay, I'm going to uh, if it's a committed relationship, long-term relationship, they want to be a good boyfriend. They some guys, before they even approach a long-term relationship, they have somewhat of an idea of what a good boyfriend should be like.
Gotcha. So even before they're in a relationship, they're already striving to be in one. Like that's a lot of what guys are like. Their goal is like everything they dedicate their energy to. You think?
Yes, for those that actually want a serious relationship,
Gotcha.
So yeah, that's what I think. And maybe the preconceived notion is that, okay, like, I'm gonna be a good boyfriend. I'm gonna take care of my partner. She's gonna be, have her needs taken care of here, here, here. You know, yeah, it's meaningful to be a good boyfriend. I think in society now, we do honor the good long-term boyfriend provider, and a lot of guys find that meaningful. So yeah,
I really think, at least for myself, that a healthy relationship requires give and take from both parties. So like maybe in some aspects the guy is stronger, and in other aspects the woman can provide more, rather than like one side feeling like they're giving more all the time. But I really am curious about why men feel like they need to be the primary provider. And I know that's still the norm. Like I see that in a lot of my family members and friends' relationships, but I just wonder where that's coming from and why they put that pressure on themselves.
Yeah, I think there's two things to that. So one thing is, if a guy approaches a relationship and wants to be a provider, yeah, he's also approaching the relationship and expecting a certain role from his partner as well. So it goes both ways. So I'm going to be a provider in this relationship. At the same time, I expect my partner to play a certain role of being a wife, being a girlfriend, I expect her to behave uh, in a way that fulfills that role that I expect from her. So yeah, I think that's not good for both sides. So yeah, so part of the problem here is that, okay, how can we talk to how can guys, you know, unlearn this kind of expectation that they have to um, be, like you said, the primary provider? Like how can they approach it more from you know, kind of, perhaps I don't know if I should use this word, but like a gender equality kind of approach, where it's saying, okay, we're gonna try to uh, make sure both of us do an equal amount of give and take based on our strengths and weaknesses, because it's a partnership. So maybe you have a little bit to share about that.
Yeah. So this is total speculation, and it's based off of a conversation I had with my dad, actually. I wonder if the feeling like you need to be the primary provider is because men are not as open to vulnerability. My dad talked about how he thinks being a father is the most difficult position in a family unit because he feels like he needs to take care of everything. But like when my mom feels like she needs to open up to someone, she can talk to her girlfriends or her relatives. But as a man, he felt like he just needs to deal with it on his own. So, I mean, I don't know if that's being passed down to like my brother or like other families that way, but I was surprised he talked to me about it. And I thought that was like a good first step. But like it was eye-opening to hear that from my dad, and I was thinking, oh, I feel bad that like he didn't open up more when I was younger. So that's just speculation.
That's pretty interesting, because I mean, even though I had conversations with my dad before, we didn't talk about, you know, his role as a father, what he should do, but how his actions speak for themselves. And I do believe my dad, as well as a provider for our family now, he believes that, okay, it's that's his purpose in life, to provide for my family. And it's very difficult to share with others on that kind of burden. And something he told me when I was a kid, you know, really also reinforced that belief, his belief that, you know, that being a provider is more difficult than let's say a mother or a wife. And what he said to me was, you know, your mom's going through a lot of tough times now. You know, it's very difficult for her to raise 3 children, but he always used a but. He said, but it's not as difficult as working outside and in the business world and providing and blah, 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 whatever he said at that time. So, you know, I think, so yeah, there is that, there we go. That's the, you know, the belief that being a provider is a huge burden over being a wife, mother. And perhaps the fact that it's such a burden, over being a wife, mother, it should be a role that is sort of uh, it should no longer be a role that guys seek in when it comes to relationships. It should no longer be a burden for guys in any relationship, whether it will be a marriage or just a long-term relationship. So,
like, it's something that can be shared.
It's a burden. It shouldn't be a self burden. Yeah, it should be maybe a burden shared between partner and partner. Yeah.
Do you ever sense that a lot of the men who feel like they need to be sole providers don't open up to their wives or girlfriends when they are feeling down or feeling like they're struggling? Like, do they share those hardships? Because I know that, like, my mom or even myself in my relationship, if something's bothering me, I'll talk to my boyfriend about it. But in the past, we've had communication blocks when he was very distraught about something over work or with his family, and that turned into a fight, which I didn't know the cause of until we dug further. And then he was like, oh, like, I didn't want to bother you with what I'm dealing with. So I thought it was strange. Like, I'm supposed to be your future life partner. You should be able to open up or feel comfortable opening up about anything with me, right? So I just wonder if, like, a lot of guys deal with that.
Yeah, I think as a guy, uh, why that happens is, if we go the provider approach, we see ourselves as performers.
Mm-hmm.
And if we reveal our worries or if we reveal our self-doubt, we're going to be seen as less capable.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't want to see that ourselves as less capable. More importantly, we do not want our partners to doubt us, because on a more deeper level, do we want our partners to doubt our ability as a partner?
Mm-hmm.
So it can feel very scary when our partners see us as vulnerable or not being capable as a provider.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the fear that, okay, our partners will see us that we're not as capable, and the worst nightmare is they're going to leave us because we are not the provider or partner that they want.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But in relationships, like, when you enter a relationship, you can't be the perfect package that the other person, like, dreamt of when they were, I don't know, in their teenage years, right? Like two people kind of mold to fit into what works for that pair, because, like, that's just how relationships work. They can be, like, ebbing and flowing. Like, people are growing differently and in different directions sometimes, and you just have to kind of figure out what works. Like those two people shouldn't be like static in the way they are and just come together and be like the two people they always once were, because there's influence from both parties.
Yeah. So kind of what you're saying is that we shouldn't, like, guys shouldn't approach a relationship thinking that, okay, I have to be the perfect guy already, just so I can have a girlfriend or a wife. Like, I should expect, if I'm with a woman in a long-term relationship, I should expect that she's gonna rub off on me in some good ways that help me grow as a partner. Yeah.
And vice versa.
Yeah, and the other way around as well. So I guess what's toxic about the provider thing is that thinking that you're already in your top performing level, you're like, I'm good. I'm on top of my game. I'm gonna provide 100% all the time. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And maybe it's still okay to be approaching a relationship as a provider, but guys shouldn't think that, okay, I'm going to be on top of my game 100% all the time. Like, it's okay for me to be at 80% or 85%, because we're not robots or machines. So I'm not sure whether the gender role of a provider can be stripped away completely overnight.
Yeah.